10. 生物基因工程万魔正在出动。
All the devils are coming out of caves. Jeffing. Edited by Care. There is no doubt that the genetic engineering now underway is of epic significance and its future is immeasurable. But when we are complacent and blindly optimistic about it, believing that each moo of a field can produce 10,000 gene of grains and each fruit tree can produce 10,000 gene of fruits, that tomatoes can be bigger than watermelons and peaches can be sweeter than honey, that pigs can weigh 100 kilograms after only half a month's growth and skin and organs can be reproduced, that a new kind of medicine will satisfy people's need for food for 3 months and needed species can be cloned, and that diseases can be eradicated and cancer can be conquered to make people enjoy unlimited longevity. Who would imagine that all the devils are coming out of the caves and that we might be facing doom at any time? Genetic codes are the golden locks that maintain the relative ecological balance and stability of nature, and that prevent the devils from coming out of the caves. But once they are unlocked, the following scenes are not just to scare you because they could happen at any time. You wake up to find that some people around you have grown tails, and that their features and voices have changed because they have eaten animal meat from mutant genes. You call a friend who is thousands kilometers away, but only hear chirp-chirp noises coming out of your phone. You do not know that your friend has grown feathers and a beak from his mouth because he has eaten poultry or bird meat with mutant genes. You and your guests are happily drinking tea and chatting in the living room, when suddenly hundreds of cockroaches, bigger than eagles, crawl in from the kitchen because they have drunk water contaminated by specific genes. You are driving your family in your car, when suddenly the road ahead disappears as tens and thousands of hills rise before you. It turns out that potatoes have absorbed the soil nutrients contaminated by specific genes and are growing wildly like hills. You are sleeping soundly one night when you are suddenly awakened by the sounds of walls collapsing and sharp screams, so you open the windows and see hundreds of large rats, bigger than dogs, running through the yard and staring at you covetously. You come home from work and turn on a national television channel to watch the news, but no matter which channel you tune to, you find nothing, not even test patterns. In fact, the country has been infected with a gene that has rapidly mutated and spread, and everyone has gone mad and died within hours. You see plants growing wildly one day, and learn that their reproduction and growth rates have grown faster than ants running. They spread over highways and bridges, climb mountains, float across rivers, occupy towns and cities, climb up tall trees and skyscrapers, and enter into caves and buildings, sweeping through to the ends of the earth. In places where they reach, from hill to hill no bird in flight, from path to path no man in sight. The devils are out of the caves and strange things will happen. The mortal world is no longer the one that we have known. People do not look like human, wolves are not wolf-like, and some plants grow wildly as some animals die instantly. At this point, any regrets are much too late. Perhaps people believe that through the efforts of scientists from different places, we will be able to handle the issues of genetic engineering rationally and cautiously, and will not act recklessly. We can only hope. The point is that no one can be so sure that they have mastered all the secrets of gene interactions and can guarantee that there will not be gene hackers. Computer hackers can only crack passwords and disrupt programs, but gene hackers could push all of us into an abyss. In order to protect nature's ecological balance and in order to maintain our survival and development, we hope that governments and scientists who are involved with bioengineering will be extremely cautious. It would be better to suspend its development for a century than to act recklessly or to compete with each other for the most radical and extreme advancements. We must avoid catastrophes that are waiting to happen.
物种是进化来的吗？
Did life evolve from non-life? Jiefeng. Translation edited by Chinyo. Let's examine the validity of the evolutionist perspective, with Darwin as their pioneer, on the origin of species. Upon rejecting the Big Bang theory and the notion of life arising accidentally from water, and upon analyzing the theory of evolution, we realize its shaky foundation. Without the birth of life, can evolution truly exist? Where do eggs come from without chickens? And without eggs, where does the chicken come from? Like how DNA formation depends on protein formation, without initial protein presence, DNA cannot form. Which came first, protein or DNA? The core tenets of the theory of evolution are as follows. 1. Before evolution, there must be at least one or several lives. 2. These one or several lives have evolved into a diverse array of life forms on Earth today. 3. Organism evolution results from heredity, variation, and natural selection. 4. Evolution follows the logic of natural selection, survival of the fittest, the law of the jungle, selecting the superior and eliminating the inferior. Five. When a species cannot adapt to its environment, or when the environment does not support a species' survival, it evolves into another species. 6. Due to brutal competition and survival of the fittest, the weak are naturally eliminated, leaving behind only the strong. This implies that low-energy forms fade while high-energy forms emerge. From these aspects, we can deduce the following. Earthworms, flies, turtles, dung beetles, cobras, dogs, humans, etc. originate from the same ancestor. B. Due to deteriorating ecological conditions to ensure species reproduction, some dinosaurs evolved into humans, while others became lions and wolves. C. Since weaker organisms are naturally eliminated, all insects are weaker than birds and will evolve into birds or more powerful animals. Similarly, herbivores, weaker than carnivores, will evolve into carnivores for species reproduction. Carnivores, weaker than humans, will undoubtedly evolve into humans for survival. D. The final outcome of survival of the fittest is that all insects and animals will eventually evolve into humans. E. Regarding humans, the strong prey on the weak, and the fittest survive. People survive by plundering and killing each other. Strong nations only remain invincible by eliminating the weak. F. All plundering and killing wars in history align with the theory of evolution. G. Acts of kindness toward other species appear cruel within one's own race. Conversely, cruelty toward other species is seen as kindness within one's own race. H. Whether it's burning, killing, looting, or cheating, any means to eliminate the weak and strengthen oneself are justified. I. Hence, Hitler's actions were 100% correct. J. Humans will continue to evolve. Eventually, wings will grow on their backs, eyes on the back of their heads, and they will breathe out fireworks and emit laser light from their eyes. Further analysis is unnecessary. Based on the 10 outcomes mentioned above, we can assess the viability of the theory of evolution. As we observe humans becoming smarter and more capable with each generation, we assume human evolution. However, this increased capability depends entirely on accumulated knowledge, and the essence of human life has remained unchanged since ancient times. Our genes as human beings have not changed. Our ancestors had 2 eyes and we still do. Our blood was red then and it remains red now. Our body structure has not gained or lost any organs or parts compared to our ancestors. If modern children could run like deer or zebras at birth, It would confirm human evolution. If monkeys' and apes' brains are similar to humans in learning, memory, and thinking, we can deduce that humans evolved from monkeys. I will delve further into the topic of biological evolution in future chapters, particularly in the Greatest Creator chapter of Life Genuine. I encourage you to continue contemplating this issue.
野生动物为什么不培养自己的医生？
Why do wild animals not cultivate their own doctors? Jiefeng. Translation edited by Chinyo. Humans meticulously care for themselves, always fretting over and preparing for unforeseen future events, being precautious and preventative. Contemplating the future and taking precautions isn't inherently wrong, but the question remains: are we devoting too much time, energy, and resources to the future? By excessively fixating on the future, are we neglecting our present? Today, people seem to form friendships mainly for utilitarian purposes, rather than fostering genuine connections as our ancestors did, where hearts were in sync. At home, rely on parents; outside, rely on friends. But why do we rely? We cloak our true intentions, compromising and pandering to friends, just to safeguard against unforeseeable future events, leaning on them, correct? Despite forced smiles, reluctant engagements, and considerable reluctance, we still go out of our way to garner support for others. Are we still being true to ourselves? How much of our time is squandered on fruitless pursuits? Why do we engage in this behavior? Is it all in anticipation of the unforeseeable future? We install security doors, set up alarms, erect fences, hang electric wires, manufacture weapons, construct hospitals, and purchase insurance. As humanity progresses, it appears the less secure we feel. Why is this? Will there come a day when everyone must wear bulletproof vests and dwell in heavily fortified underground bunkers? Is this truly the path of human advancement? Birds and wild animals do not have doctors or hospitals. Does that mean they cannot survive? The day before yesterday, I visited the Marandra Wildlife Sanctuary for observation. A large elephant mingled among a group of water buffaloes. According to the park staff, this elephant has been alive for nearly 30 years. It struck me. This elephant has lived for 30 years without ever seeing a doctor or receiving treatment from a hospital. How did it weather the storms and extreme weather conditions over these 30 years? Among humans, who among the 30-year-olds has never visited a hospital or seen a doctor? Can one not survive without doctors and hospitals? I'm not suggesting that having doctors and hospitals is detrimental. The extension of human lifespan partly hinges on the advancement of medical services. The question remains: why don't birds and wild animals have their own doctors and hospitals? Are they not living freely and happily? In the courtyard of the villa where I reside, the vegetation flourishes. Every day around 4:30 in the morning, birds chirp in unison, and around 5 o'clock, when I open the window, I can observe a dozen or more species of birds merrily chirping and catching insects. They appear so carefree and liberated, utterly unconcerned about world affairs, currency fluctuations, the Iraq crisis, or the Asian financial turmoil. I wonder, should humans take a cue from birds? If we eschew reliance on anything, and nothing can be depended upon, if we refrain from worrying excessively about the future, will we live more freely? Let what comes come and let what goes go. Wouldn't life be simpler?
思维误区。
Misconceptions in thinking. Jiefeng. Translation edited by Chinyo. Failure is the mother of success. Is it really so? The original intention of this argument is to encourage people not to be discouraged by failure but to learn from it in order to achieve success. It seems that the great inventor Edison once said, "Who says I failed? I already know 9,900 ways that won't work." From this, people mistakenly believe that Edison's success is entirely due to failure. Thus, failure is the mother of success. In fact, Edison's success is entirely based on his repeated successes. Without the multiple successes in the early stage and the confidence gained from other successes, he would undoubtedly fail. The truth is, from the perspective of probability theory, success breeds success, and failure breeds failure. Successful people will continue to succeed, while failures will continue to fail. Individual or minority examples are not sufficient to establish a theorem. True lovers eventually become a couple. Is it true? This idea seems to tell us that all married couples in the world are loving and affectionate lovers. Let's ask ourselves honestly, have you and your loved one become a married couple? The fact is, it is difficult for lovers to become married. If lovers do become married, the outcome is often the drowning of affection. Live and work in peace and contentment. Is it possible? Without a job, how can one live in peace? Would pies fall from the sky? It should be only by enjoying work can one live in peace. In today's world, many young people start their careers first and then start a family, which is correct. Safe and sound. Half right. Being safe leads to being sound, but being sound leads to being safe. Steel is refined through 100 trials. Try it, after 100 attempts, will it become steel or gas? Ever-changing. Yes, without rules to follow, acting without rules, indeed it is ever-changing. Wisdom comes from experience. Must we experience everything to gain wisdom? Time flies, life is short. If we cannot cleverly make use of things, if we cannot learn from others' experiences and lessons and apply them to different situations to gain wisdom, and instead insist on trying everything by ourselves, isn't that foolish? The only way to catch tiger cubs is to go into the tiger's den. How many spy satellites are hovering over us, observing our every move? With interconnected computers, the world situation can be observed in an instant. In this era, do we still need to risk our lives to catch tiger cubs in their dens? Truth lies in the coffin. Don't expect to find truth just by closing the coffin. People will review history from thousands of years ago for comments. We should still follow Tao and not care about the content of the eulogy when we die. Associate with the wise and you become wise. Associate with the foolish and you become foolish. Nuns think about having a drink in the lively place, and prostitutes want to get away early and cultivate virtue. There are many corrupt officials among the emperor's followers, and there is justice among the gangsters. Who says, associate with the wise and you become wise? Associate with the foolish and you become foolish? A newborn calf is not afraid of tigers. The opposite is. A newborn tiger is most afraid of cows. The viewer sees better than those involved. The truth is, those involved see better, while the viewer is confused. He who has the truth on his side has the majority. Aside from negative cosmic energy, the rest seems to be, the strong have more help, the weak have less help. A dog relies on its master's power. Similarly, people rely on the power of dogs. A bosom friend afar brings a distant land near. Without anyone recognizing oneself, one's neighbor is as distant as the ends of the earth. Once called it comes, once waved it goes. It comes when called, but it's hard to make it go when waved. The strong wind reveals the sturdy grass. Sturdy grass recognizes the strong wind. Do not do unto others what you do not want done to yourself. What you do not want done to yourself, you easily do unto others. Listen to both sides and you will be enlightened. Heed only one side and you will be benighted. Heeding only one side leads to darkness, and listening to both sides also leads to darkness. If you want something, you must give something in return. If you give something, it's definitely in order to get something back. Exhaust oneself in service, and only rest in death. Exhaust oneself in service, merely for the sake of reputation. A long road tests the strength of a horse. Time reveals a person's heart. Carrying a heavy load tests the strength of a horse, and money reveals a person's heart. Better to be a shattered jade than an intact tile. Better to be an intact tile than a shattered jade. If the skin is gone, what can the hair attach to? If the hair is gone, where can the skin hide? A broken mirror can be put together again. It's hard to mend a broken mirror. People fear fame as pigs fear fattening. People want fame as pigs want to grow fat. Youth is wasted on the young. Workers don't work hard and bosses suffer. He who sees the trend is a wise man. He who sees the trend is a smooth talker. If one separates himself from physical labor, he cannot differentiate between the 5 grains. If one separates himself from physical labor, there will be an abundant harvest of the 5 grains. The whole year's work depends on a good start in spring. The whole year's work depends on a good start in winter. All crows are black. All crows are not as black. To spin a cocoon and trap oneself in it. To spin a cocoon for self-defense. Of the 36 strategies, running away is the best. Of the 36 strategies, intangibility is the best. 3 shoemakers surpass Zhuge Liang. 3 shoemakers are still shoemakers. Traveling 1,000 miles is better than 10 years of reading. 1 year of reading is better than traveling 1,000 miles. If you don't listen to the old man, suffering is in front of you. If you only listen to the old man, suffering lies ahead.
颠倒思维
Reverse thinking. Jiefeng. Translation edited by Chino. Not having is having, having is not having. Up is down, down is up. Success is failure and failure is success. Gain is loss, loss is gain. You are me and I am you. Humans are Buddhas and Buddhas are humans. People are ghosts and ghosts are people. Humans are demons and demons are humans. Life is death and death is life. Moving forward is moving backward, and moving backward is moving forward. Destruction is construction and construction is destruction. Being intelligent is being foolish and being foolish is being intelligent. Science is a form of superstition, and superstition is a form of science. Politics involves governing people, and governing people involves politics. Workers are laborers and cadres do nothing. Disorder is order and order is disorder. A child is an old person and an old person is a child. The infinitely large tends towards the infinitely small, and the infinitely small tends towards the infinitely large. The darker the place, the brighter it seems, yet the brighter it appears, the darker it becomes. The slower the faster and the faster the slower. The richer one is, the more distressed one becomes, and the more powerful one is, the more dangerous one becomes. The kinder you are, the more foolish you may seem, yet the more foolish you appear, the wiser you may be. The poorer one is, the less trustworthy one is perceived, and the richer one is, the greedier one becomes. The more useless something seems, the more useful it may be, and the less one possesses, the freer one may be. The more enticing something appears, the more it may consume one's life, and the more delectable something seems, the more it may harm one's health. The more one has, the more one will gain, and the less one has, the less one will be bestowed. Looking at people from afar, they appear beautiful, but up close they seem ugly. Similarly, pigs appear hateful from a distance, yet charming up close. The nourishment for humans is not food, but the different molecular structures of energy, qi, within food. If one consumes this energy directly, they may bypass the need for food altogether. When God created humans, humans began creating gods. When humans raise cows, cows start to raise humans. When humans invent computers, computers will eventually invent humans. Because we have eyes, we don't see what we should see, but we see what we shouldn't see. Because we have mouths, we don't eat what we should eat, but we eat what we shouldn't eat. Those who achieve success early often decline early. Early intelligence can lead to early confusion. Early sorrow can turn into early joy, and early happiness can turn into early sorrow. Those who rise early tend to sleep early, and those who sleep early often rise late. The more one loses, the more one gains. Conversely, the more one gains, the more one loses. In having nothing to lose, one has nothing to gain, yet in losing everything, one gains everything. The ultimate objective of life is not to approach death but to journey towards another world. Much like the ultimate aim of a fetus is not to grow within the womb but to enter the world. Thus, human society acts as a grand womb, through which individuals must pass, seemingly through the gateway of death, to reach another world. Consequently, death is not the end but rather the beginning. The you in dreams is not your true self, the true self slumbers in the real world. Similarly, the you in the present is not the true self, the true self is sleeping in another world. The dream you is unaware that your real self is slumbering in the real world, just as the present you is unaware that the true self sleeps in another world. Upon awakening, the dream ends. When the true self awakens in another world, life concludes. If one dies suddenly, it is because the true self in another world did not awaken naturally but was abruptly awoken by others. Thus, regardless of age or manner, death is not an inherently negative event, and the living need not sorrow but should rejoice in their timely cessation of illusion. From the perspective of conventional thinking, the sun unquestionably revolves around the earth, as observed rising from mountains, water, and the horizon, and setting on the opposite side at dusk. The ancient text Shan Hai Jing contains a fable titled Quafu Chasing the Sun, wherein the protagonist Quafu perishes due to his adherence to conventional thinking. Similarly, Copernicus was burned alive for expressing a treasonous and heretical notion. The earth revolves around the sun, rather than the sun around the earth. Consequently, conventional thinking is often the folly of fools. We frequently refer to sea level, yet it is not a level surface but rather a curved one. When traveling by Boeing 747 from Johannesburg to Hong Kong via Bangkok, the altitude of the plane remains relatively constant, leading us to assume it flies straight and parallel. However, the flight path is not linear but rather curved. You take a globe, imagine yourself standing in Oslo, Norway, and then picture the people in Cape Town, South Africa. Can you tell me who is on top, who is on the bottom? If you consider yourself on top, then the people in Cape Town would be below. Since they are below, and everyone's feet are planted on the earth, it is without doubt that the people in Cape Town live with their heads facing down. However, when you visit Cape Town, you find that people are heads up, making it seem like the people in Oslo are the ones with their heads down. Thus, our conception of up and down may be erroneous. Though we claim airplanes soar in the sky, changing spatial perspectives reveals they travel beneath the earth. Extending from the spatial positions of up and down to the abstract concepts of high and low, we often say, the greater the hardships endured, the more esteemed the person. Man struggles upwards, water flows downwards. This erroneous perception of hierarchy makes people forget the meaning of life, trapped in the quagmire of upward ascent since childhood, unable to extricate themselves. By the time old age approaches, they still don't understand, remaining confused, thus muddling their once very beautiful lives. The more energetic a person is, the more susceptible they are to straying from the path, and the smarter and more talented a person is, the easier it is for them to become ensnared in the mundane. Conversely, those who are frequently ill, seemingly hopeless, are more likely to grasp the truth. This is reflected in the Taoist saying, illness breeds Tao in the mind, and the reason lies therein. Let's look at time again. We say, today is March 3, 2004, and 10 years from today will be March 3, 2014. Upon waking in the morning, we glance at the clock and exclaim, "Ah, it's already 7 o'clock." When conversing with friends, one might remark, "Time flies so quickly, I'm almost 40 years old." We feel as though we're swimming in the vast ocean of time, life is fleeting, and the years are unforgiving. The older one gets, the more prone they are to sighs and regrets. The sunset is infinitely good, but it's almost dusk. Knowing today, why regret yesterday? Time, like a demon or cancer cell, consumes people's happiness, hope, and lives. But let me ask you, where does time come from? Does time truly exist in the universe? Is time really so precious? You may find yourself perplexed. If I were to tell you, time is a construct of humanity, it doesn't truly exist in the universe, and time isn't inherently valuable, you might find it puzzling. If I were to further assert, you've created time as this specter, this illusion to intimidate and torment yourself, you might begin to question my sanity. Delving deeper, have you ever dreamt of deceased loved ones? The relatives you see in your dreams aren't truly dead. They've merely transitioned to a different realm of existence or shifted to another space. Would you then consider me delusional, spouting nonsense? The truth is, if you were to think so, you'd be correct, indicating your normalcy, practicality, and rationality, but lacking the concept of unconventional thinking. 3 meals a day are considered essential. The diet should be varied. Otherwise, malnutrition may ensue. This is conventional wisdom. If you firmly believe it to be an absolute truth, then indeed it is. You become accustomed to 3 meals a day. Should you miss one, you'll feel hunger and uneasy. If you believe 2 meals a day suffice, then indeed they do. If one day you were to consume an extra meal, you'd experience stomach discomfort. If you believe 1 meal a day is adequate, then it is. Regarding food, if you subscribe to the theories of nutritionists, you'll include chicken, duck, fish, various fruits, vegetables, etc. in your diet. If you adopt a diet that is too simplistic, it will result in your physical and mental emaciation, accompanied by fatigue. But if you reject the conventional nutritionist's approach, believing that consuming only 1 egg and a glass of milk per day provides ample energy, then indeed it does. Furthermore, if you firmly believe that subsisting on a spoonful of honey, an apple, and an adequate amount of spring water per day is sufficient, then it is. Should you believe that abstaining from food and drink altogether, existing as your own cosmic entity, allows for longevity, then you've grasped the mechanics of animal hibernation, attaining the wisdom of Bodhidharma. Expanding upon this, should you experience faint stomach pains one day, subsequently suspecting stomach cancer and thinking daily, "Oh no, I have stomach cancer," within 3 months, a medical examination confirms your fears. Conversely, after an examination reveals lung cancer, should you firmly assert, "This cannot be lung cancer, my lungs are perfectly healthy, and there's no way I could have lung cancer," 3 months later, the lung cancer dissipates. The key lies in the power of the mind. It only works when one believes sincerely. With sincerity, one can split gold. I'm old, I'm no longer capable. I'm already 40, what else can I do? This life is what it is. If there's an afterlife, I must. I'm already 80, this illness cannot be cured. This is impossible. This is too fantastical. These sentiments, born of conventional thinking, lead one down a path of negativity, a suicidal mindset, a misconception of human nature, a spreading virus. Some may argue, I'm already in my 70s, nearing the end. Even if I were to break free from conventional thinking, what good would it do? Let me tell you, every day of a person's life, every age, marks both an end and a new beginning. Each day heralds the birth of a new self. People can live not only to 100 but even 200 years. The reason for disbelief lies in the millennia of conventional thinking constraining minds and thoughts, coupled with the misleading notions of shallow science, claiming a pituitary gland at the back of the brain secretes a fluid controlling lifespan and asserting that humans undergo only 7 cell divisions from birth to death. These are all negative inductions. Be practical and realistic. Don't aim too high. Human lives rarely exceed 70. You're almost 80, be content. Do you really believe in a second youth? The next time someone dares to preach such wisdom, tell them to take their ignorant babble elsewhere. An elephant can be tied to a stake with only a thin rope. A farmer can be tied to the ground with only a bit of land. A worker can be tied to a workshop with only a few sets of tools and a workplace. An intellectual can be tied to a job with only a few hundred yuan salary and the hope of being promoted. A businessman can be tied to a business field with only a little profit. A follower of a religion can be bound within a certain religion by a scripture. And an official can be tied to a post with only one position. The moral creed of children whose parents are still alive should not travel too far away from their parents has tied a high school outstanding classmate of mine near his home forever. The absurd causal preaching of there are three forms of unfilial conducts, having no male heir is the gravest of the three, has made countless respectable people suffer from inner torment forever. For their parents, for relatives and friends, for children, for traditional virtues, for reputation, countless men and women who do not love each other silently endure and live together for a lifetime. Everyone is more or less tied by invisible ropes, and everyone's mind is covered by an invisible net of thinking. Everyone is carrying a heavy cross, but they can't feel it, or they can feel it but do not have the strength and courage to break through the fetters. Seeing that the people around them are living like this, they feel at ease, get used to it, become numb, so they bear it. Someone asked me, "It's easy for an elephant tied by a string to break free, but where will it go if it breaks free?" Yes, if you break free, where can you go? With no fodder, no jobs, no wages, no position, and even no housing in the surrounding relationships, how can one survive? There was a group of swans. Every autumn, they flew over thousands of mountains and rivers in a group, singing songs all the way, admiring the green mountains and blue waters under their wings, and going to the far south to open up new living areas. A few of them were captured and fed by humans. They grew fatter and fatter, having no worry about food and drink, and carefree. Even in the cold wind and snow, there was a shelter protecting them from the wind. As time went by, they got used to the food given by the master and got used to the joy with the chickens, ducks, pigs, and dogs. Their brothers and sisters flew back the next year, and they met with a burst of kisses and hubbub. Autumn was here again, and the brothers and sisters came to encourage them to fly to the warm south together, but they advised their brothers and sisters in turn, "Stay here, there is food, drink, and housing here. Why bother to fly back and forth every year? Besides, the place you fly to may not necessarily be lush with water and grass. Even if the food is abundant, you have to find food yourself. How can it compare to us here having food and drink, and being free and easy?" The brothers and sisters shook their heads in puzzlement. One by one, they spread their wings and flew away. In the third year, spring had come, and the flowers were in bloom. The brothers and sisters flew back again with singing, but except for two nephews and nieces, their original brothers and sisters were nowhere to be seen. They asked their dirty nephew, "Where did your uncles and aunts go?" The lame niece rushed to cry. A few uncles were killed by the master to entertain guests. Other uncles were killed by the mistress, saying that she wanted to nourish her body, and the aunts were taken away by relatives and friends of the family. Don't know whether they are still alive. When I was grabbing food with the puppy, my leg was bitten by the mother dog. What should my brother and I do now? As she spoke, she squatted on the ground in despair. All the swans came around at once, stroked and comforted with their white wings. "Children, don't cry, we will take you out of here this autumn." "Where can we go?" asked the poor nephew. Long-term habits have formed a fixed thinking. Once the thinking is fixed, it is difficult to break through. Let's look at another phenomenon. The wholly devoted state of Africans praying for blessings. Groups and groups of Africans on the African land are all dressed in white clothes. Regardless of the wind or rain, they go to the big tree, or kneel on the grass to repent and pray. What kind and honest people! The wholly devoted state of Africans praying for blessings. Groups and groups of Africans on the African land are all dressed in white clothes. Regardless of the wind or rain, they go to the big tree, or kneel on the grass to repent and pray. What kind and honest people! I respect these kind-hearted people and hope that all people will go to mosques, Buddhist temples, Taoist temples, churches, and kingdom halls to participate in activities and listen to teachings. I bring this up just to talk about the problem of thinking. All religions have their own rituals and forms, and they have fixed activities every day, every month, and every year. What I want to ask is, can these rituals, forms, and activities alone enable you to be liberated, reborn in heaven, in the Elysium world or the Millennium world? I have no objection to your beliefs. The problem is that you must figure out what you believe in and whether its past and future are clear. If you don't know, will all your efforts be in vain and will you go astray? Just take Buddhism as an example. Shakyamuni Buddha said in the Diamond Sutra, "Those who see me in form and seek me in sound are treading the heterodox path and cannot perceive Tathagata." What is form? Form refers to material forms, things that can be seen and touched. Then is paying homage to Buddha statues, burning incense and kowtowing and praying in accordance with the teachings of Buddha? If a physical body goes all the way to a temple to worship a physical statue, does the behavior itself violate the teachings of the Buddha? Is it already on the heterodox path? Everyone who worships the Buddha statue, I want to ask you, where is the Buddha? Is the Buddha in the temple? If you don't have Buddha in your heart, even if you travel all over the world, you can't find Buddha. If you have Buddha in your heart, there are Buddhas everywhere. If you really want to worship Buddha, you must keep in mind the teachings of Buddha. First, worship Buddha in your heart, and learn from Buddha in speech and behavior. Only in this way can you understand the principles of Buddhism, perceive the nature of Buddha, and finally become a Buddha. Worship that emphasizes form but ignores content is a kind of blasphemy against gods and Buddhas. Rituals and forms are a kind of restraint, a kind of pretense, just to strengthen people's beliefs, and a means and process of dissemination. Whether you attain Tao depends entirely on your own psychology and actions. If you don't have it in your heart, it is useless, and not even if you burn incense and kowtow every day, go to temples and Taoist churches to worship statues of gods every day. If you have it in your heart, even if you have never been to a temple or church, you can become a loyal disciple of gods and Buddhas. Due to the limitation of conventional thinking, most people think that gods and Buddhas are in temples, Taoist temples, and churches, or in some places that are indefinable. They believe that as long as they participate in religious activities and hold ceremonies, they can get the blessings of gods and Buddhas, and their merits and virtues are fulfilled, and they will attain the state of spiritual immortality. It is actually very wrong. In fact, gods and Buddhas are one with humans, and gods and Buddhas are on us, and gods and Buddhas cannot be deceived. Everyone has divinity and Buddha nature and interacts with the gods and Buddhas in other dimensions. Whether we can go to the space of gods and Buddhas after death is entirely determined by the response information waves we send out from our body, and the intensity of the visible light colors which we have but cannot be seen and distinguished by the naked eye. Just like a networked computer, the program has been determined, and it all depends on how you apply it. It is impossible to get away with it if you want to be opportunistic. The great world seems chaotic, complicated, unpredictable, and elusive, but it is actually very simple. Our every word, deed, every action, every thought is recorded on our body without omission. Even in the pitch dark night, one does things secretly, thinking that the gods do not know it, and the ghosts do not notice it. In fact, the information waves and light emitted from us have changed and have been clearly revealed. Divine punishments, though slow, are always sure, with big meshes yet letting nothing slip through. Who can you